Yo, it's that time of week again. Time to induct all you fine people into the Hall of Fame. Give out some free months of Stochastic plus Platinum in the process. Some big winners this past week, so we're about to dive into it. Of course, all you got to do to get involved, get your name up here. Have us do the bragging for you. Get the free month of Stochastic and get inducted into the Hall of Fame right here on the Stokastic YouTube. Download the Stokastic profile picture, stokastic.com/avatar. Tweet your wins at Stokastic Hall of Fame, at Stokastic HOF, and get that free month. Just finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, and we got you. Just like, how about Braden V coming in hot? Took down the big one last night. Shout out to all the content you guys and time and effort into doing every day. Love the YouTube vids. $87,000 win. What a way to kick this off. I told you we had some big wins this week. Like Bobby Nissan, this dude's just been crushing through and through. Almost took down 3 GPPs last night. So close, but what a great run. Got to thank Awesemo DFS and all the great tools and staff at Stokastic. If you're not a sub, it's costing you money. And then you see Bobby again. And shout out to Bobby, too, because he's running one lineup across all of the. I mean, look at those entry fees. $102,000 there. Big thanks to Stokastic. Your DFS tools are the best. Thanks to the crew for the great content you guys put out there every day. Let's keep the print fest going. Yeah, Michael Penn certainly did. The Hammer, 333 with a $40,000 win. Best content and projections around. Can't thank you guys enough. It's a huge one. See, it doesn't stop either. One of the best NHL analysts out there. Josh, I hate the fact that I have to, you know what? I'm not even reading this one. I'll let you guys read this to yourselves. It makes me uncomfortable, but the $20,000 win is fantastic for Josh. Check that NHL content out right here on the channel. And how about Elder Breaks? Taking one down in single entry. Daniel Jones let me down, but guess I'm a Hurts fan now, as you should be. $5,300 win there in the fair catch. And then Kevin Driscoll, huge thanks and all the hard work from the Stokastic team. Took down the first solo win of the year. Keep the content coming. What is that, $2 in the $2,000 in the Thursday NBA pick and roll? Beautiful. Love to see that ROI. And D. Spearman, first solo win of the year. We got another one. First solo win of the year. I want to try out my free membership for this NFL playoff weekend. Thank you, guys. Congrats, man. Yeah, quarter jukebox into the $100. Again, massive ROI. And it doesn't matter. If you guys are in a nickel or quarter arcade, as long as you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, you're getting up here, and you're still getting the free month of Stokastic plus Platinum. Michael Cooney, shout out to the Stokastic crew. Last month, I purchased U-Alls and another, that's a tough one, and another premium sub. Not going to throw shade. Used theirs for 3 weeks. Realize I had.
And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Strategy Show. It is Friday, January 27th. I am Josh Engleman. I am joined by Adam Scherer. We are brought to you by PrizePicks, and we've got what's not normal, a 5-game Friday slate. I can't say that I'm mad about it. This is actually perfect in my eyes. We're going to be able to dig in very much in depth to every single team, that is playing for today. Before we get started, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Adam, I don't want to know how you did yesterday. I want to give a shout out to the other boss man behind the scenes. That would be Tom Kennedy. Picks up the big W on DraftKings yesterday. And I know that you did not pick up that W, but how'd it go otherwise?
Not great. Kind of lucked out on the main slate. My highest buy-in I cashed because I had Dinwiddie and didn't have Luka. But yeah, just, I don't know, normal slate. Nothing fun.
Yeah, it was one of those where really glad I go to bed. Would not have enjoyed the sweat yesterday. Wouldn't have worked out well for me. Would have worked out great, obviously, for Tom. I know Eddie was up there. I know Tom had a second lineup up at the top. I ended up topping out at 12th. That would have just
Eric
been
was in first for a while too.
Oh, was it?
But it was one of those like he was in first but had no chance of winning type things.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know how. I mean, like, in theory, like I don't know if I was blocked out or not. I
had no idea you'd even been up there.
I didn't even look. So either way, doesn't matter. It didn't win. I can't go back in time and make any changes. But good night, nonetheless. I'm very happy about it. Screw the Pistons. That was about as irritating as it gets. Isaiah Stewart doesn't start for the first time in like 90 plus games for the Pistons. He started every single game that he played last year and every single game that he had played this year up until yesterday. And I went on a rant about it on the Process show yesterday morning, how like he's clearly starting and the decision point was Duren and Bay. And boy, oh boy, did that not end up being the case.
Yeah, way to go on that one.
Nailed it, man. Nailed it. I speak that shit into existence. I thought for sure I spoke Luka smashing into existence with my tweet yesterday. And sure enough, it went the other way.
Yeah,
rarely for me. That never works out for me like that. And you are well aware of it. I have become a giant mush for whatever comes out of my mouth. We got a lot to talk about. 5-game slate means we really need to dig into anybody that ends up being even mildly viable. The bench players that are, 1 fantasy point per minute type guys become very interesting. So I'm ready to dig in if you are.
Yeah, let's go.
First game up, 7 p.m. start. Milwaukee Bucks, 8-point favorites in Indiana, 237. And for Milwaukee, they're essentially at full strength. We know that Bobby Portis is out, so we've already seen that. Everybody else that's normally in is in. We have a Q tag on Marshawn Beauchamp and AJ Green, but that is not really the type of stuff that we're worried about here for the Bucks. It's obviously a fantastic matchup against the Pacers. High pace, not the high pace. I get it. Not exactly like the best defense in the world. We're seeing mild ownership coming into Drew Holiday, Giannis, to Pat Connaughton, a little bit to Grayson Allen, not as much to Brook Lopez, even though he actually did see a price reduction, I believe. When you look at Milwaukee for today, how do you want to handle it? Because while Middleton is back and you kind of look at that Drew Holiday price as a problem, Chris Middleton's also only playing 15 minutes, so I don't know how much it matters.
Yeah, I mean, with him, if he's going to continue playing that little, then it doesn't make that much of a difference. 8,500 for Drew, pulling 10% ownership, I think, is fine. That price tag did drop a little bit, and he's still a good point per minute guy. It's not like he completely disappears. Anytime he's on the floor with like Giannis or Middleton, he's still good. And with Middleton being limited, you're still just getting a lot of minutes where Drew is just playing with Giannis or, playing by himself or whatever it may be. So I think he's fine, especially in a good matchup here against Indiana. Giannis at 11.5. The raw points, start to matter a little bit more on these shorter slates as well. There's just less mid-range guys that can put up 60 points. So it increases the chances of Giannis being an optimal play simply by hitting his median projection. So, in this spot, certainly happy to get there. The Connaughton ownership is interesting. Like 20% is kind of a lot for somebody like Pat Connaughton, but at the same time, he is coming off of a game that he just played 38 minutes and he is only 4,100 in a good matchup. So I think he's just one of those guys where, at least for right now, he's a really useful value piece. You're not getting to him because you expect great things out of Pat Connaughton, but he is projecting for nearly 6 times his salary, and he is going to open things up so you can get to, other good options. Grayson Allen in that mix as well. The stuff that's really interesting to me, though, is Brook Lopez and Joe Ingles. Lopez 5,800, only pulling 5% ownership. Ingles 3,700, shooting guard and small forward, only pulling 4%. So getting like 1/5 the ownership of Pat Connaughton when Ingles played 27 minutes last game. He was in the closing lineup. We've seen him get increased playing time recently. I'm not saying I think he's a better play than Connaughton. I think Connaughton should be the more popular of the two, but I think Ingles may be going a little bit overlooked here. And then Lopez, we got 32 minutes from him last game. It makes a ton of sense that you could get, an extra couple of minutes from him without Bobby Portis. He's not a bad point per minute guy. It's not a bad matchup at all. So, I know it's the center position, and kind of no matter how many games there are, there's still going to be good options at that position. But I think maybe going a little bit under-owned as well.
Yeah, it just looks like a perfect GPP play for today. There's no reason that he can't be the center that goes out there, scores like 40 fantasy points from Brook Lopez today is a score that puts him in, likely like you can win a tournament very, very easily with that as your score. And it's probably one of the better center scores you're going to get. And it doesn't have to be like an outlandish performance. He could do that in 32 minutes. It's not like a giant outlier. I like the Joe Ingles shout as well at 3,700. Played 27 minutes on Wednesday. Played 28 and 31 in 2 games back and 3 games back. Now, obviously, that didn't have Giannis, but even still, without Bobby Portis there, I think those minutes are available for Joe Ingles. Interesting guy to be able to get to, especially at low ownership. Yeah, I can't imagine we're getting any sort of real Middleton bump. I gave him 18 minutes for this one. If you want to tell me it's 20, that's fine. It's irrelevant for DFS.
Yeah, that's how
for him at least.
Right.
It's everyone he gets is more relevant for everyone else. It's not going to make him playable in any way.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Milwaukee's just sort of pretty easy to break down at this point. Like they don't seem to be doing anything too weird now. They're kind of just dialed in.
Yeah, their rotation's relatively predictable. Like, do you know you're going to get 38 minutes from Connaughton? No, but you can expect, low 30s at least, which is going to make him look good. I mean, so like there's still some fluctuation there, but nothing too crazy.
Okay. The Indiana side has been, I don't know, a thorn in our sides, at least for the past week or two. Q tag on Andrew Nembhard, Q tag on Aaron Nesmith, Q tag on Miles Turner. We've got Tyrese Halliburton still out. The past 2 games have seen Nembhard not play. The other 2 Q tags on Nesmith and Turner were not viable for what we had, although Nesmith, I believe, did get hurt on Wednesday. Huge ownership here coming to Buddy Hield and to TJ McConnell once again, who's still just 6,500 on DraftKings. I mean, to me, let's just start with McConnell and get it out of the way. Seems pretty clear to me that we're doing this again. Yeah,
I'm fine going right back to him. I mean, certainly pay attention to the ownership. Right now we have him at 47%. You can make a case, to get away from him. Like there's no shortage of point guards that you can ever get to, but he's just still underpriced here for his starting role. He's over a fantasy point per minute guy without Halliburton. He played 33 minutes last game, which is on the low end of what we've seen from him as a starter so far. It's not a good matchup against Milwaukee, but it's just still a very, very reasonable price tag for TJ McConnell, assuming he remains in the starting lineup.
All right. How are you feeling about no, obviously we need to assume, at least for right now, that I guess everybody is in there. We have no real other path to handle this. How do you feel about that $6,100 Buddy Hield shooting guard, small forward, 30% owned right now? It's another guy where I think that's totally justified.
Yeah, so do I, especially with the positional eligibility. It just gives you, every roster spot basically you can play him at. And 6,100 is just cheap for, Buddy Hield playing increased minutes as a result of injuries. He played nearly 39 minutes last game. You can pretty comfortably expect him to play at least 34 or 35, if not more. Without Halliburton on the floor this year, 1.05 DraftKings points per minute. A little bit of a bump in assist percentage at 14%, has a 20.5% usage rate. We know he's a good 3-point shooter. So yeah, I think it's just that he's underpriced and has positional flexibility that just makes it really easy to kind of like, no matter what your lineup looks like, if you need a guy around 6K, you can fit Buddy Hield in.
I don't know who I think is the best guy to go to next. Assuming everybody is in, I find Benedict Mathurin to be interesting at 5,700 as sort of like a Buddy Hield pivot in this game, so to speak, at least from an ownership perspective. Obviously, Buddy Hield, I think it looks a little bit better, but it's not as if Mathurin's not playing big minutes. I mean, he still got 37 minutes even when Nembhard was still in for that game on Saturday. To me, looks like a good GPP play. Miles Turner sort of always just looks like an interesting GPP play. He's going to play as many minutes as he can basically handle. Nembhard, I don't find that interesting, even if he's in. $3,400 Nesmith is a thorn in my side, pulling 25% ownership. When you look at the rest of Indiana, what do you want to do? I assume we're going to get into an Isaiah Jackson, Jalen Smith discussion as well, much like the Hornets.
Right. So with Nesmith, I mean, that's just a really annoying price tag. He's pulling 25% ownership just because he projects as a good point per dollar play because he's just a little bit too cheap at 3,400. Like, make this guy 4K and you kind of just can ignore him outside of tournaments, but at 3,400, it's just going to open stuff up for you. So it's another situation where like he's going to be in highly projected lineups, but also the chances of Aaron Nesmith actually putting up a game you have to have are pretty low. So definitely pay attention to the ownership there. But if he is in and starting, he is going to be a good point per dollar, good point per dollar option. 0.7 DraftKings points per minute for him without Halliburton on the floor. if he's starting and doesn't get re-injured, you're likely looking at upper 20s in minutes. So I get, again, I get the projection, I get the ownership. It also just scares me because I hate rostering popular low point per minute guys. It's just so easy for them to fail. Chris Duarte at 4,200 pulling 10% ownership compared to the 25 for Neesmith. But even that, like 4,200 for Duarte is pretty cheap, but he's $800 more expensive than Neesmith. Like that's a really big gap, especially when you're talking about value guys. So I agree with the ownership gap being there. 0.8 DraftKings points per minute for Duarte without him on the floor this year. Math run at 8%, I agree with you, is interesting in tournaments just because he's a fantasy point per minute guy without Halliburton. He's likely giving you north of 30 minutes. He's not getting nearly the ownership that a lot of these other guys are. And then we have the Q tag on Turner. If he's fine in tournaments, there's always foul risk for him, but he's averaged about 1.2 DraftKings points per minute without Halliburton on the floor this year. If he's out, I don't know who starts. It'll either be Isaiah Jackson or Jalen Smith, most likely. It's the Pacers. They could go to like James Johnson or some shit, but I assume it's Isaiah Jackson or Jalen Smith. If Turner is in, I would guess Isaiah Jackson's the backup just because he was last game. But again, that could be him or Jalen Smith. It's similar to that Charlotte situation.
Well, I got the Charlotte one wrong yesterday, which was a real pain in my ass. But Isaiah Jackson at 3,200 playing the non-Miles Turner minutes at center, I think looks pretty good at absolutely no ownership for today. I mean, if we're taking shots on random dudes that aren't getting any ownership, I'll take mine on Miles Turner's backup as a 1.1 fantasy point per minute guy. Knowing this, I'll have 12% Isaiah Jackson, and the first guy off the bench is going to be Jalen Smith, so none of it'll matter. But do you expect to get to one of Jackson or Smith even if Turner's in?
No. Jackson, the reason is Jackson only has center eligibility, and I have no confidence in which guy it's going to be.
All righty. Obviously, there's a giant. Go ahead.
Oh, so go ahead. You also can't even guarantee that you're getting a full, like all the backup minutes from them is the thing too. Like with that Charlotte situation, at least based on all of their recent games, they're playing either Plumlee or the backup for every minute of a competitive game. With Indiana, they are kind of all over the place. Like last game, you got 33.5 from Turner. You got 12.5 from Jackson. You got a couple minutes where Brissett was at center. They also more frequently than like Charlotte have those games where like Jalen Smith and Isaiah Jackson both play. So it's just a situation where I don't think you're guaranteed to get all the backup center minutes for either guy.
That's fair. Anything else you want to touch on here for Indiana?
No.
All righty. One game down. Schedule for the rest of the day. I will give you that after you guys hit the like button. We should get this one up to 100. NFL Strategy Show Matchups Edition coming up at 11 a.m. So right after this, you get the NHL Strategy Show at 2 p.m. We've got the So Rare NBA Show at 3. The No House Advantage NBA Show at 3:30. That's going to be myself and Aton. So make sure you're tuning in for that. Adam will be back for the deeper dive at 5, and then we'll have live before lock at 6. So 6 more live shows for today. Plus, if you're interested in taking a peek behind the paywall, if you've never signed up at Stokastic before, 5 days free. You can find the link in the description, or I assume in chat at some point in time. That'll give you access to our projections, ownership, the boom bust tool. Boom bust tool is going to show you optimal rates and leverage your boom and bust scores, obviously based on the name. You get our player compare tool, so you can do 1v1s and 2v2s using all of that data. And finally, our lineup generator. This is going to be a tool relatively new for us. We generate all of the lineups. We get rid of everything that we think stinks, and then we let you flip through the rest of them. If you like it, click save. If you don't, click discard. If you want to swap some guys out, go ahead. If you want to lock a player, you can do that as well. All sorts of stuff going on behind the paywall, and you guys can check it out for 5 days free if you've never signed up with us before. Now, we head on to 7:30 start. Memphis 3-point favorites in Minnesota. Got a 237 total on this one. Q tag on Desmond Bane, very important. Steven Adams still out. Danny Green still out, but coming back soon. John Conchar still out with that concussion. The Bane news is obviously massive and changes everything that we're going to do about this slate, because it takes someone like Dylan Brooks from $4,600 shooting guard small forward that's interesting on a 5-gamer to Dylan Brooks very much interesting at that price tag. Assuming Bane is in, though, I think either way, we need to start with a discussion of Who is your expected center for the Memphis Grizzlies today?
Clark. I don't know.
Yeah. Going with Clark out of the gate, 4,900 power forward center eligibility. To me, honestly, like a little surprised he's not owned even more.
Yeah, I think he should be. I mean, the salary did get up near 5K, but still, he's now started 4 games this year. Going in the last game, he was averaging a little over 28 minutes per game in his first 3 starts. Last game, he played 32 against Golden State. If he's in the starting lineup, I mean, he has power forward eligibility. It just makes him look like such a good option. He's not a high usage guy, which in situations like this, I actually like, because you're not likely to see, a huge drop off moving into the starting lineup, because he's very efficient and doesn't rely on, using a lot of possessions. So he gets his fantasy points, without that 19.5% usage rate overall this year, 1.07 DraftKings points per minute. If you put John Morant on the floor just to kind of get an idea of how Clark looks with the starting unit, you get 291 minutes, still 1.04 DraftKings points per minute. The usage rate moves from 19.5% to 18.7%, 70.4% true shooting. Like, he's just a really efficient scorer, really efficient shooter that rebounds well. So it's not a big deal when he moves into the starting lineup. Very, very happy to get to him, assuming he's starting. If they do go back to Xavier Tillman, you get a $3,600 center that I think you can project for starting minutes if he starts. So that is one thing. That's the biggest thing for me. And we saw it. I don't know if people just were over it and didn't bother late swapping or what, but like, we saw Xavier Tillman pulling ownership last slate. Even in like high stakes, he was like, small field high stakes, he was like 20% owned when he wasn't starting. And it was just like, I don't know, did people think they were just going to go 24-24? Like, whoever starts is starting, is the read that I have. And I think especially if it's Clark starting, because like, if Tillman starts, I think there's more times that game plays out where Tillman starts and plays 22 and Clark plays 26 than there are where Clark starts and plays 22 and Tillman plays 26, barring foul trouble, injury, anything like that.
And that this most recent game from Wednesday, we did get 2 or 3 minutes of Jaren Jackson at the 5. So I did project it that way right now. 28 minutes for Clark. I went to 18 for Tillman, potentially 2 for Triple J. And there's a Q tag on Gobert right now. If Gobert happens to be out, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see a little bit more Triple J at the 5 if need be.
And that was also a game where Jaren Jackson was in foul trouble and fouled out.
There you go. Shocking.
I don't think it. Yeah. I don't think it affected Clark or anything. Like, he fouled out. Clark was already on the floor when Jackson fouled out. My point was just that, like, in a game where he's not fouling, maybe you get 4 minutes instead of 2. Like,
yeah. Assuming Desmond Bane is in, where do you want to go next? Because I think Morant, Bane, Brooks, and Jackson, relative to their own salaries, all look pretty similar, and that kind of bears out in the ownership for the most part.
Yeah, Bane pulling 9%, but that's with the Q tag, and then the other 3 pulling between 14 and 17%. I think that makes sense. They all look good, but like, relative to each other and relative to their salaries, there's not one where you're just saying like, wow, this guy's completely underpriced or overpriced or anything. Jaren Jackson at 6,600 on average, giving you around 28 minutes, but certainly could give you more if he stops fouling, potentially getting some center minutes too, which we know are more valuable. I certainly like that price tag on him. John Morant at 10K is just always going to be a good option. Dillon Brooks at 4,600. When everybody's healthy, like when you have Bane, Morant, and Jackson, you get a low usage Dillon Brooks. We make our jokes about Dillon Brooks shot selection, but he does stop shooting when all 3 of those guys are in. But at the same, that's caused his salary to go down to $4,600. Shooting guard, small forward eligible, still likely to be on the floor for about 30 minutes. It's just, a situation where, yeah, he's less productive with everybody in, but he's also not 6K anymore.
Right. Yeah, like I have no problem taking chances on Dillon Brooks with this positional eligibility and this price, even if Bane is in. Now, if Bane is out, he becomes a very interesting play. We're just going to see a little bit more usage. He's going to be able to take a bunch more shots than he normally gets to take. The question for you is, if Bane is out, who do you think starts? Because we don't have the natural, John Conchar just steps into the starting lineup for Desmond Bane in this spot. Who do you think it ends up being?
Williams.
Yeah, probably. How do we feel there? Because he's not good on a per minute basis.
Right. Yeah, it would just kind of turn into your Garrison Matthews from yesterday type play. Garrison Matthews when people thought he was going to start type play. Probably wouldn't even pull that much ownership, but it would just be a $3,200 guy that you can use as value if you need it. But 0.73 DraftKings points per minute overall this year. And if he is starting, that probably comes down a bit. Only an 18.5% usage rate overall. So again, not somebody that you expect to or that was ever a high usage guy and is going to just lose it, but probably like a 0.65, 0.7 fantasy point per minute guy. If he starts, he's fine as a value, but he's just another one of those where you're going to get a good median projection point per dollar, but how much ceiling, how much volatility is there really?
All righty. Anybody else you're willing to take a shot on here? Assuming Bane is out, Tyus Jones, Santi Aldama.
$3,300 Aldama in large field tournaments, I could see sneaking into some lineups. I wouldn't want to play him with Jaren Jackson. The clear path to success for Aldama is Jaren Jackson gets in early foul trouble. But you saw in the first half rotation last game, every minute that Jaren Jackson wasn't on the floor, Santi Aldama was, and then ended up getting to 20.5 minutes total for the game. At 3,300, it's just a little bit too cheap. The ceiling is there. Clearly, on average, you're going to get around 18 to 20 minutes though, and not like what you get.
I don't have anything else here for Memphis.
Me neither.
All righty. Then we head to Minnesota on the opposite side here. Q tag on Rudy Gobert. Stop me if you've heard that before. Still no Towns, no Prince, no Jordan McLaughlin. Lots of ownership here coming into Minnesota, which is no surprise. Big total on this game. I've got Memphis number 1 in my pace metric. I've got Minnesota number 9. This should be a track meet. It should be competitive. 3-point line is ultra close. These teams obviously got into it a bit last year in the playoffs as well. We've got 20% ownership coming into Edwards, Russell, McDaniels, basically Kyle Anderson. And then we get to 45% ownership coming into Rudy Gobert at 6,400. But if he plays, past 2 games he's played, he's 34 and 35 minutes. I don't that's a big ownership number. I'm also not surprised to see it.
No, neither am I. The price tag just doesn't make sense here because you're either this, just play whoever is starting at center for Minnesota in tons of lineups. If it's Rudy Gobert is 6,400, completely mispriced. We've seen him playing, like you said, 34, 35 minutes, even with these Q tags coming into games. Is there some risk of re-injury during the game? Sure, we saw it happen not that long ago, but at 6,400, it's just a bad price tag. In the games he's played without Towns this year, he's averaged 1.09 DraftKings points per minute. And if you're going to get around 34 minutes in a good spot, Steven Adamless Memphis team, it's just it's a misprice on Rudy Gobert. So kind of like we were saying with McConnell, is 46% ownership a spot where you can just find profitable pivots where you're just getting, lower owned guys? For example, let's say Miles Turner is 10% and Rudy Gobert is 45.5.
Right.
If you just played this slate every day of the season and you do nothing but play Miles Turner over Rudy Gobert, that's probably a profitable move. But the better move is probably playing Rudy Gobert and finding a lower probability popular guy to get away from within your lineup. So just
another Brook Lopez spot too.
Right. Just a really, really good, obvious spot for Rudy Gobert, and no need to rehash it. But Naz Reid down to $4,300, best play on the slate if Rudy Gobert doesn't play. Not particularly close. Russell, Edwards, McDaniels, Anderson all look fine. 1.2 DraftKings points per minute this year for Edwards in the games that he has played with Gobert and without Towns. 0.9 DraftKings points per minute for Kyle Anderson in those games. D'Angelo Russell at 1.04 DraftKings points per minute. You have seen D'Angelo Russell's minutes start to creep back up too. 38.8 last game. Good to see, because we had seen earlier in the year that when Jordan McLaughlin was out, you were getting a lot of playing time from D'Angelo Russell. Then we kind of hit that streak where he was just playing 30 to 31 minutes no matter what. And it was pretty frustrating. But now, back to 38.8 last game, only 6,700, pulling a bunch of ownership. That's going to look good. Jaden McDaniels for the season, a 0.74 DraftKings point per minute guy, but the minutes should be there for him. So he's pulling some ownership in the games he's played without Towns and with Gobert, 0.74 DraftKings points per minute. So no change there, but only 4,500. All 5 of the starters look good for Minnesota. And again, whoever's starting at center looks fantastic.
Let's just assume that we have all of the information right now. I'm almost positive I know the answer, but I think I want to ask anyway. Let's say Gobert is out. Do you prefer Naz Reid or Brandon Clark?
Naz Reid.
Okay. I agree. But they're both still excellent either way. You want them both.
Right. Yeah. Like I probably just have them, especially because they both have power forward eligibility. I probably just have them both everywhere. But Reed's the answer because he's a better point per minute guy. He's 4,300. Similar playing time expectations. Like I think the minutes ceiling on Reed is probably higher than on Clark because I think Minnesota would love to just play him 36 minutes. Obviously, you have the foul risk, so you're not projecting 36 minutes. But I think you're probably projecting about 28 for both of them if they start. So for me, it's Reed.
All right. It's slightly better price on Reed as well. Helps.
Yep.
I mean, I guess I got to say it. On the off chance that Gobert is out, Nathan Knight is 3,100. If he happens to be the starting center, you're going that way, even if you're projecting him for 24 minutes.
Oh, yeah. If somehow Nathan Knight starts or Luka Garza starts, then you're playing them.
Yep.
No matter who is starting at center tonight for Minnesota, play them.
We should probably get that on like a t-shirt or something because it's becoming something that we have to talk about a lot.
This does actually, this is, I think, I guess they switched it up too. Like, I was going to say this is kind of similar to the Charlotte spot. Like if Gobert were out, one of Knight or Garza as the backup is interesting in large field tournaments. But like we had the game recently where Nathan Knight was the first guy off the bench, but then Luka Garza was the only center that played in the second half. So again, I think there's just even more risk trying to guess that one correctly than there is with Charlotte.
Anything else from Memphis?
Nope.
All right, then hit that like button. We're at 75. We should be able to sneak over that 100 mark right about now. Time to talk about PrizePicks, the sponsor of this video. And keep your eyes peeled for potentially some PrizePicks content coming from me in the near future. If you want to sign up at PrizePicks, there's a link in the description of this video. Make a deposit. You'll get up to $100 as an instant match deposit bonus. You're picking player props. Take it over-unders, put together 5 on one card. You can net up to 10x your entry fee. You can do that across sports, NBA, NFL, NHL, college basketball, soccer. I'm just reading it down. Euro basketball, PGA, tennis, Rocket League, live tennis, evidently. You can get into some really weird stuff here at PrizePicks. Adam and I are going to touch on some raw points props for today. I've got a couple up right now. We're going to hit on the ones that we've talked about so far. I actually just tweeted out a card that I actually put in. If you guys want to check it out, at Josh Engleman. Go follow at ShipMyMoneyDFS as well. The Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Giannis at 30.5 raw points.
Over. We have 33.2 in only 32.8 minutes.
Yeah, I got 32 in 33 minutes. That would be one that I would like to go ahead and grab pretty quickly. Let's go back to the Minnesota Timberwolves now. Anthony Edwards, 27.5.
Under.
Yeah, I have the under as well. I'm actually grabbing that one too. We'll see if I can get all 5 of them while we do this. Let's go to another Timberwolf, I guess. Kyle Anderson, 9.5. I hit it on the nose, so.
Yeah, we have 9.6.
We've got Jaden McDaniels in Minnesota at 11.5. I have that one on the nose as well, which is really creepy.
We have 12.6, so I like the over there.
Okay. And now I'm going to give you one more. Do you think Giannis hits a 3 today?
I was not expecting that one. I would take the under.
Yeah, I got him at 0.8, which means that like it's pretty close to neutral. There's not a lot of points props out there that we haven't talked about yet. I guess we're about to get into Orlando and Miami, so I will just go ahead and get into Paolo Banchero, 19.5.
I got off the screen.
You're good.
19.2, so I wouldn't take it.
All righty. Those are a couple PrizePicks props for you guys. I have a couple more out on my Twitter account if you want to check it out, and keep your eyes peeled for new PrizePicks content. Plus, you could just go to the PrizePicks player prop tool on Stokastic.com. We've got all of them already laid out, over-unders and percentages, if you want to dig in there. Now, the Orlando Magic are 7.5-point dogs in Miami, 217 total. So we're starting off the slate, 237, 237. Next game, we're cutting 20 points off of the raw total. For Orlando, tough team to like in general at this point. Only Chuma Okeke is out, so they have 100 different guys that they can play. Did that just happen?
literally 30 seconds ago.
Okay. No John Isaac, so somebody else is going to have to play those 8 minutes. Honestly, like that is about as irrelevant as a piece of information as you can get, given the way that he has been limited for his purse too. But it is real. When you said that, I was just like, dude, I'm positive that is not the case. So that must have literally happened right now. 10% ownership. Go ahead.
But as someone that listens to my co-host, I stopped you immediately and told you, as opposed to letting you talk for 5 minutes about Seth Curry and then telling you when you're finally done that he's not playing, like Lofty did yesterday.
I listened to all of that one. That was fun. I mean, chat told you should have checked out chat. Every single person of the 2,000 that were watching let you know that Seth Curry was out.
Yeah, don't point to yourself, Mike. You let me finish too, and then told me. Yeah. No, I did see it in chat. That's actually I did see it in chat before anybody on the show with me informed me.
Well, I appreciate you letting me know, so I didn't go any further. I don't know if it would have mattered at all for this discussion. 10% ownership coming into Paolo Banchero and to Markelle Fultz, about 10 coming into Franz Wagner. In general, no ownership is really coming into the Orlando side. I'm not surprised. They've got a very low implied total for today, the lowest on today's slate. They have a very weird rotation of guys right now. If you want to go to Wagner, Banchero, Fultz, or Carter, I think those are the viable options. I'm not sure, and I am usually a bit higher on these Orlando guys. I'm not sure that I can call anything here a priority today.
No, I'm with you. It's just kind of tournament plays for me. It's not an appealing matchup against Miami. You have a pretty shitty rotation, but you do have 4 guys that you can relatively trust the minutes. I think it's interesting that Franz Wagner at 6,200 with shooting guard, small forward eligibility is only pulling 8%, and that Wendell Carter Jr. is only pulling 7%. You can certainly throw Carter into that bucket with like Brook Lopez, where there's a reason that they're low owned, and it's just that you have Rudy Gobert, at least for now. You have other centers to get to, but there is clearly a ceiling for Carter, who could play 32 minutes, and he's only 6K. Like, it's not a bad price for him. Banchero's down to 7K, Fultz at 5,600. Those are both favorable price tags as well. In a lot of matchups, they'd be really popular here. Against Miami, I think that's why you're seeing the decrease in ownership even for those guys. But you did get nearly 36 minutes last game for Banchero. You've been getting north of 30 for Fultz. So I think it's kind of the same thing it has been. Fultz, Banchero, I think the 2 best plays from Orlando. Carter and Wagner, the other 2 that I could see playing. And then I like the idea of a $3,200 Jalen Suggs. I just don't really know how I get there. Same goes for $3,900 Bol. Like, they're cheap enough where it's just like, man, not that much has to go right for them to just be a really good play. But also, they're like just far enough away from that ever happening that I don't really want to gamble on them too much.
Yeah, on my dummy crunch that I ran to start the day, the most that I got of anybody was Paolo Banchero at 11%, which is what he's owned. And it's just going to feel difficult. Like, this just isn't a game environment that has a lot of fantasy points to go around. That said, I assume this game is like the linchpin to everything, because if it just skews slightly high, having 1 or 2 of these pieces is going to make you incredibly unique.
And as far as I see people talking about it in the chat, and I agree. As far as the Jonathan Isaac minutes, those there's no way to know exactly what they do with those, but they could actually be big. Like, if you just add those 8 minutes onto Jalen Suggs or Bol or Cole Anthony, like, suddenly those guys are really good plays. If they say like, oh, we're going to throw Terrence Ross into the rotation now, or we're going to give, 2 minutes apiece to Anthony, Wagner, Suggs, Bol, then it's pretty much useless.
Yeah. The problem is it's just there is no actionable way to know where those minutes are going.
It's just I think keep in mind there is a little bit of extra volatility for the playing time with these guys.
Yeah. My assumption is that, like, somehow Terrence Ross gets back in here. Maybe they trim one of Mo Wagner or Bamba to just be the other backup center, which I guess is mildly interesting. If you think that one of the centers is just a center.
Also, to that point, like, Mo Bamba didn't play at all in the first half last game, so you could very easily just he gets the Jonathan Isaac minutes.
Yeah,
which wouldn't make him look good. It would just, it's another way it can go where it doesn't benefit Bol or Suggs.
I mean, it could make him look good. A 17-minute flat 3K Mo Bamba is that's true. Real on a 5-gamer.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to think which Orlando Magic bench guy is the key to my day.
Right. Like, I don't think there's an answer to it. They're just all at such low price tags that I kind of feel like one of them might be. I just have no idea which one.
Right. I agree. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think one of these guys for Orlando is relevant, but you got to pick between 12 dudes.
Right. I mean, shit, even Cole Anthony's 4,500.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, he's
playing actual minutes.
Yeah, there's a path there for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that is Fultz foul trouble, potential, extra minutes from Isaac, Wagner foul trouble. Like, there's a lot of ways for Anthony to get there.
Oh, yeah. For the Miami Heat.
Or just smashing in 24 minutes.
Yeah. Or just being good. I mean, it doesn't take much on a 5-gamer. Butler is back in for today. Caleb Martin, probable. Max Strus, probable. Haywood Highsmith, probable. So it's just the normal guys that are out. We got about 15 to 20% ownership coming into Hero, Bam, Butler. A little bit less coming into Kyle Lowry. I am way more interested in Tyler Hero today at 6,900 than the public seems to be. Point guard, shooting guard eligibility, 6,900. Came and played 36 and a half minutes on Tuesday, played 35 and a half minutes on Sunday. I assume he's just back to playing like 35 or potentially more like he had been for so long prior to missing those couple games. I'm well over the field on Tyler Hero right now, but talk to me about Miami in general.
Yeah, I'm with you on the Hero minutes. We'd seen him come back and play like 30 to 32 in a couple of games, but he just clearly seems to be back to his normal playing time. And even in the games that he's played this year with Butler and Bam active, he's still at 1.04 DraftKings points per minute. So you have a fantasy point per minute guy playing, 35, 36 minutes against the Orlando Magic at $6,900. He is getting some ownership at 18% on DraftKings, but I agree that that's just a good price tag for him. Lowry at 4,700, whatever. Pulling 11, 12% ownership. I think that's fine. He's cheap, but also he's Kyle Lowry. So, and you have Butler back, which cuts into his production. Bam at 8,400, 15% owned, no issues there. Butler being back cuts into him as well, but you should still get 35 minutes, and he's still a good point per minute guy in a good spot against Orlando. Jimmy Butler, only 7,600 is a pretty cheap price tag. He actually leads the way here at 21% owned. All four of those guys look good to me, and then I don't really have much interest in anything else.
I don't have anything to say. I mean, like $3,800 Caleb Martin, I guess, is a viable option for today.
Yeah. Foul trouble last game for anybody wondering. That's why Highsmith played 30 minutes and Martin played 11.
Yeah.
He managed to pick up 5 fouls in those 11 minutes. And Butler was out.
Orlando Robinson is a flat 3K backup center playing whatever minutes the Bam doesn't play. Can't really add. There's going to be 100 versions of that. I don't have anything else here for Miami. They're pretty easy to talk about. Stick to the best 4 guys on the team.
Yep.
Cleveland Cavaliers, 1.5 point favorites in OKC, 222 total. We clearly need to get an injury report here for Cleveland. They are on a back-to-back. We didn't get Donovan Mitchell yesterday. We didn't get Kevin Love yesterday. My assumption is that we don't get Ricky Rubio today on the back-to-back. That one just feels pretty safe to just say right out of the gate. I'd be shocked if Donovan Mitchell played today, but they did rule him out late yesterday. So I can't just immediately... I did leave him out of my projections for today. It just seems like it makes a little bit more sense, but I wouldn't be surprised there. You could see Kevin Love come back. I don't know how actionable that is either right now. I have a feeling these are just going to be Q tags that hang out there until 7 o'clock tonight.
Hopefully 7 o'clock. I mean, it could be later, which would suck, but
sure. They could be Detroit. It'll be hang out there till 7:58.
Right. That was ridiculous. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously a lot of news we need here, but there are going to be plays to like from Cleveland. If everybody is in, then you get a situation where, Donovan Mitchell looks fine if he's not going to be limited. Darius Garland looks fine, but neither guy stands out. Jared Allen would stand out regardless, though. He is 6K flat. Like, this guy was one of the most popular centers yesterday, so we cut his salary by nearly 10%. Now he comes back at 6K. I don't. This is also why you're seeing such low ownership on Brook Lopez, Wendell Carter Jr., these other guys, is you just have complete mispricings on Rudy Gobert and Jared Allen. So it creates a situation where, on the one hand, it's very interesting to pivot away from them and just hope that they get in foul trouble or play poorly or whatever it may be. But they're just so underpriced that it's really hard for them to not be good at their salaries. So totally understand why Jared Allen's pulling so much ownership. Mobley's salary dropped as well. He's 6,800. He's a good play if Donovan Mitchell is in. He's a better play if Donovan Mitchell is out. Darius Garland, if Mitchell is out, goes from being fine to being a clear priority at $8,300. You see his production, not surprisingly, skyrocket when Mitchell's not out there. If Kevin Love is in at 3,600, it's the same really annoying play we talked about yesterday where he's not likely to have that good of a game. His playing time's been cut a bit. We know he's playing through an injury that's affecting his performance and probably also affecting his playing time. But he's also $3,600. So if you happen to get 18 to 20 minutes, he's going to be somebody that is really, really useful. I would pay a lot of attention to his ownership. Right now we have him, with a presumed Q tag only pulling 3%. If you get a 3% Kevin Love at 3,600, sign me up. Like, I'll roll the dice on just hoping to run into that random good game. But if, yesterday we had him at like 30%, if you have 1/3 of the field playing a guy that could really play 12 minutes, then like I'll find other stuff to do. So ownership on guys like that just plays a huge role for me.
Yeah, for right now, I'm going to be happy getting, assuming this breaks the way that I think it does, with no Mitchell, no Love, no Rubio. I'm pretty much happy with any amount of Garland, Mobley, Allen, and LeVert that I get to today.
Yeah, LeVert's another one at 5,200. If Mitchell's in, I'm not interested at all. If Mitchell's out, looks fantastic. If you get your scenario where Rubio, Love, and Mitchell are all out, then you can start looking at a $3,200 Cedi Osman as well, potentially a $3K Dean Wade. Osman probably the more appealing of the two just because he's the better point per minute guy since he does more than just, knock down open threes. But they both, Cedi played 24 minutes yesterday. Wade played 23.
That would open up. And then, obviously on a day like today, you can get to Isaac Okoro, shooting guard, small forward, 3,700. You'll never feel good about it. I was Sean V's tout yesterday. So that really knocked that one out of the park. He was absolutely dreadful yesterday. So kudos to him for that. But
I mean, he was, but also like for completely different reasons than he mentioned. He was a decent play just in the sense where like he was 3% owned and you're just hoping to run into the random Okoro game. You're never expecting him to do well because he's just not an offensive player. Even if he has, made a couple extra 3-pointers in the last month.
His play was offensive, however, 9.8 DK points in 25.5 minutes, a crisp 0.36 FanDuel points per minute, just based on the calculation that I already have done. That said, like he is very viable as a shooting guard small forward on a day like today.
As long as he's not popular. Like if you, for some reason, start getting like 15% ownership to Okoro, like again, you can just find other guys that are bad.
Yep. Yes, you can. Anything else for Cleveland?
Nope. Really, really big team to pay attention to though.
Yep. OKC throwing a little bit of a curveball in today. No Dort for the next couple of games. Still no JRE or
good for
Poku.
Darius Garland if Mitchell's out.
Absolutely. We haven't seen somebody be out for OKC in a while. Like they've been running that Shea, Giddey, Williams, Dort 4-man core for a hot minute. So this starts to look a little bit different. The highest owned guy is the guy that I think is going to step into the lineup for today. 13%. It's the only guy in double digits for Oklahoma City here, too. 4K Isaiah Joe. Do you have an assumption of who you think is starting for today for OKC?
Aaron Wiggins.
Fair. At which point, whoever starts in Lou Dort's place becomes a play today, right?
If it's Aaron Wiggins, kind of.
Yeah, because he's still allowed to play 18 minutes in a start.
And he's also just not a good point per minute guy.
Also true.
Whoever starts in his place is someone I pay attention to the ownership, because if Isaiah Joe starts in his place, you could very easily be getting 22 minutes from Isaiah Joe, which at 4K, he's a 1 fantasy point per minute guy. But that probably comes down a bit playing with Giddey and SGA for more minutes. But like, if you get Isaiah Joe starting, like, we do have ownership coming in there. He's a good play, but also it's still the OKC rotation where they can just do a million different things. If it's Aaron Wiggins at 3,100 overall this year, he's a 0.77 DraftKings point per minute guy. If he plays 30 minutes, that's going to look great. If he starts and plays 20, like that sucks. So, again, pay attention to the ownership. There's always just increased volatility here because their rotations are completely without logic. So, whoever starts is going to project as a good value, but just keep in mind the minutes could go anywhere.
Yes, they can. All right, let's look at everybody else then. How does Dort's absence make you feel about Shea, Jalen Williams, Josh Giddey, the three guys that we're normally okay with? Because while I thought I was going to end up getting an absolute boatload of Shea, and I have him projected very well here, he didn't just show up in everything like I was kind of expecting. But 9,900 is a very nice price tag for him. The problem is the matchup.
Right. Good price tag, great playing time. I don't think Dort affects that. You're getting 35 to 37 minutes from Shea with or without Dort, I would expect. But he's like a 1.4 DraftKings point per minute guy. Really, really tough matchup. I do like the lack of ownership coming into him. Getting someone this good and with this much upside on a 5-game slate is appealing. I think this is one of the ways you go. Like if you're not playing Giannis, for example, Shea is one of the guys that can get you a very, very good raw point score at relatively low ownership. Giddey at 7,800, likely playing 30 to 32 minutes. Again, a fine contrarian tournament play, but also I think priced pretty much correctly, especially for the difficult matchup with Cleveland. Jalen Williams is up to 5,400, which makes it tough to really want to get a lot of him. But Dort being out probably does help to solidify his playing time a bit, makes it a little bit less likely that they do something random and don't play him as much. So I think in tournaments, those guys are all fine, but the matchup and the relatively expensive salaries do, I think, still make them basically contrarian plays more so than real building pieces.
Any Kenrich Williams interest?
Yeah, I think it's kind of the same thing. Like he's 4,400. You have no idea how many minutes he's going to play. He did start and play 30 minutes last game. Dort being out could certainly have a trickle down effect on him since he is someone that can play multiple positions. He's not getting ownership, which is good. Like he's 4% owned. I don't mind rolling the dice on him there. If you were getting like 12% ownership, that would be weird. Like right now, for example, let's say Isaiah Joe starts. I don't really think Isaiah Joe should be getting 3 times the ownership of Kenrich Williams because Kenrich Williams is $400 more expensive.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I don't see them as wildly different options for today and probably comparable minutes. What are your thoughts on Trey Mann, who is the 3rd most owned guy on the Oklahoma City Thunder for today?
3K flat is just such a easy price tag to beat. The problem is just I don't necessarily think Dort being out changes anything for him. You're probably getting like 12 to 16 minutes. But it's just one of those spots where, like, if that's wrong and he plays 22, then suddenly you just need Trey Mann.
Yeah, I don't totally know how to handle this because with Lou Dort off the floor this year and no other qualification whatsoever, Trey Mann has played 555 minutes. That is the most of anybody on the Thunder by almost 80 minutes.
Yeah, I want to look and see.
Obviously, because Trey Mann is a backup and Lou Dort is a starter, that number is going to be higher. But for him to be the unequivocal guy, it makes me think that there's some sort of relationship there that you just don't naturally see.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up now. Even if you put Josh Giddey on the floor and take Dort off, Mann is still at 235 minutes, which is the most. Jalen Williams is second at 226. If you put SGA on with Giddey, you're going to start getting a very limited sample. But then you get – so Trey Mann has played 10 minutes with Gilgeous-Alexander and Giddey on and Dort off.
Oh, I've got it at 98.
I have it at 177 with SGA on and Dort off.
I've got it at 98 with SGA and Giddey on.
That's weird. And Dort off?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have it at 10.
Okay. Oh, you're right. I'm wrong.
Okay.
You're right.
Dates?
Something like that. I didn't account for Trey Mann being on the floor.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I have SGA and Giddey at 95 minutes with Dort off. Yeah.
Okay. So that's fair. I mean, I think that he's live to play some extra minutes here. I gave him 20.
I think that's probably on the high side of reasonable.
I also didn't get to him. So at 9% ownership, I'm not really upset about it. But just something to think about considering the ownership is there. Anything else for OKC?
Nope.
All right. Let's close this one out then. Toronto Raptors, late night hammer. So we got one game at 7, one game at 7:30, 2 games at 8 p.m. And then we wait 2 hours and we get the Toronto Raptors at Golden State Warriors. And if this one maintains just having like a clear injury report for both sides, we're looking at like a very large piece of this slate. Raptors are 5-point dogs, 229 total. Everybody that's normally available for the Raptors is available. Delano Banton's Q tag is irrelevant. In Wednesday's game, they went back to that 8-man rotation where, you're just getting a very concentrated, heavy rotation of basically only wings plus Fred VanVleet. And for right now, the highest owned guy we have is Precious Achiuwa at 4,200 at 18%. Everybody else is around 10. I don't know which guy to pick because I think they all look the same. But boy, oh boy, do I feel like you're going to need something from Toronto today.
I'm shocked you feel that way because you always love Toronto. But
tell me I'm wrong today, though.
What'd you say?
Tell me I'm wrong.
No, I mean, it's a very, very appealing matchup against Golden State. And you have ownership coming in, across the board to this team. Precious Achiuwa somehow getting the most at 18%. I don't know why. But beyond that, I think, any of the starters look good. They all look pretty similar relative to salary, though. So, like you have Siakam, who is center only on DraftKings at 9,500. The opportunity cost there keeps the ownership in check. On FanDuel, he always looks better because he has power forward eligibility. Van Vliet has been playing a bit better recently. He's 8K flat, which is certainly a good price tag for him. Gary Trent, shooting guard, small forward, 6,300, 12%. Anunoby, 5,900 is interesting. He played 31 minutes last game, but didn't play down the stretch. I think that a lot of times he's going to. I mean, it's OG Anunoby. So 7% ownership to him at 5,900 seems really, really interesting. Scotty Barnes at 10% looks good. And to kind of double back on Achiuwa, I think he's fine at 4,200. Like, he's probably going to play low to mid 20s. I just don't think he's that good of an option, especially where he's center only.
Yeah, played 28 on Wednesday. Obviously, that weird Anunoby stint. People are likely going to look at him playing 35 and 37 in the previous back-to-back on Saturday and Sunday. One of those games without Fred VanVleet, one of those games without OG Anunoby. Yep. The previous stretch of games, he was playing in that 20 to 25 minute range. So I tried to be even aggressive. I gave Achiuwa 26. I think it's out there. I think the more interesting play would be, do you want to roll the dice on Chris Boucher at 3,600? Power forward eligibility, 1/4 the ownership of Precious Achiuwa.
Sure. I have no confidence in his playing time. It's going to be somewhere between 0 and 22, but at least he's power forward and he's 3,600.
Yeah. I gave him 19 minutes.
And it's a revenge spot.
It is indeed. Ultimately, I think every lineup I have has one of the main couple guys from Toronto, and it's just a random one for everyone. And you just hope that it's the right one for that particular lineup, because I don't really care which one I get.
Yeah. The only thing that truly stands out to me is that OG Anunoby is 7% owned.
I feel the same way about Barnes, but yeah, Anunoby's $5,900 price tag and shooting guard small forward probably carries a bit more weight.
Right. I like the ownership on Barnes, but also, Barnes is nearly $8,000, so I get it. Yeah. But we have one of the cheaper price tags we've seen in a while on Anunoby and no ownership.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, look, he got injured on Saturday, didn't play Sunday, played limited minutes on Wednesday. For reasons.
Limited 31.3.
Sure. I mean, that's
I know
Toronto.
I know it's limited, but I'm saying it's not like we're trying to get Anunoby to go from 24 to 36 minutes today. The dude still played 31 and a half minutes, and that's about as limited as Nick Nurse gets.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly not projecting him for 31 minutes today. That's for sure.
And it also, the rotation wasn't. I think it just had more to do with game flow. Precious Achiuwa scored 13 points in the fourth quarter. He was playing well. It wasn't a designed limit on Anunoby. If you look at his first half rotation, he played nearly 7 minutes, went to the bench, came back, played the final 2:45 of the first quarter. So you got about 10 minutes in the first quarter. He played the first 5 minutes and 18 seconds of the second quarter. So you're up to 15 minutes. He played the final 4:37. So you got to 19, 20 minutes in the first half. Then he played 9 minutes and 13 seconds in the third. He opened the fourth quarter. He basically played 2 minutes and 30 seconds, turned the ball over, and never came back. I don't think that was a designed limit. I think it was just a fluke in the fourth quarter.
Anything else for Toronto?
No.
The highest owned guy on Golden State today is 12% owned Klay Thompson. Everybody that's normally available is available, except for the Q tag on Andrew Wiggins, which carries a giant trickle down, but it's single-digit ownership across the board for the Warriors. I'm fascinated by this game in the aggregate as a DFS matchup. The problem is there's 12 different dudes that I think are very, very live to be in an optimal lineup. And I think they all basically look the same. I don't know what you do here to pick Golden State, but I'm happy to get to most of the guys the same way we talked about Toronto.
Yeah, the ownership coming into Klay makes sense because now he has small forward eligibility in addition to shooting guard on DraftKings. So not only do you have him at a very reasonable $6,500 price tag playing 34 to 36 minutes, but now you just have a lot of positional flexibility as well. If Wiggins is in at 6K, he's going to look pretty good. If he's out, you get a 4K Kuminga who probably starts in his place and looks good. Curry at 10-4, I like. Getting half the ownership of SGA, I think I'd honestly rather get the Curry if I can find that $500. Jordan Poole at 7,300, 7% owned, no issues there. If Wiggins is in, I'm pretty much keeping it to the starters, I would think. 6,200 for Draymond is a very reasonable price tag as well. I wouldn't have too much interest in, Kuminga, DiVincenzo, Looney if all 5 of the starters are in.
All right.
So did you see the Steph Curry ejection the other day and why?
I know he threw his mouthpiece into the stands.
Oh, you didn't see why he did that though?
Mm-mm.
There's like 12 seconds on the shot clock, and Steph Curry is standing about 5 feet away from Jordan Poole, clapping his hands for the ball. And Poole just takes a contested 3 from like way beyond the arc. And Steph just heads back down court and just chucks his mouthpiece and gets ejected. So then they're interviewing Poole after the game because he ended up making the game winning layup. And they like ask Jordan Poole like live, what his thoughts were basically on the Steph ejection. And he kind of, gives, like a non-answer like you would expect, but they like follow up too. Like, well, did you realize that he threw his mouthpiece because of the shot that you took? And like, it was just, I almost felt bad for him. It was like such an uncomfortable follow-up question to do when like he clearly wasn't going to be expecting it.
NBA Bet Pro videos today.
Yep.
That's going to do it, folks. NFL Strategy Show Matchups Edition coming up next. You get Lofty and Matt Gajeski breaking that one down. Thank you to PrizePicks for being the sponsor in this one. Keep your eyes peeled for all the content we have later today. Good luck tonight, everybody. Enjoy your weekend. We'll talk to you later.